In today's session, we're going to continue on the process of implementation of achieving breakthrough improvement. And we're at the point where we've identified the system constraint and we're applying the 5 focusing steps. So our next step is decide how to exploit the constraint. So what does that mean? So we're looking at exploring the constraint. What we want to do is once we identify where it is, we want to decide how to get more out of that resource's capacity without adding additional resources. So we don't want to throw money, we don't want to throw people at the constraint. We want to figure out how we can do things more effectively. So what we found is that every process can be improved and improved significantly without adding additional expense, without adding additional resources. So first thing I look at is what is the resources utilization? So utilization is how many hours is that resource performing value-added work compared to how many hours that resource is available. So if the resource is available for 10 hours and they're only doing 5 hours of value-added work, that's 50% utilization. So our first step is, can we get the utilization up on that resource? In most cases, the answer is yes. So it's also important to understand to make sure that the resource is working on the right things. So effectiveness is making sure the resource is working on the right things. We don't want to be efficient by doing things that shouldn't be done, but doing them effectively, right? So don't focus on efficiency, focus on effectiveness, making sure that the right work is being done by the constraint. And when we look at the constraint, we want to think about the surgeon concept. So what is the surgeon concept? So if we look at a surgeon, he's not responsible for doing any pre-op, he's not doing any post-op, he's not doing the anesthesia. So he's doing the task that he's highly skilled at doing. So we want to use the same concept. So remove all tasks from the resource that they shouldn't be doing. So we have a 3-step process. First step is eliminate. So activities that are non-value added tasks, get those off and stop doing those things. Next is integrate. So offload any tasks that that resource is doing that they shouldn't be doing that requires the high skill and have some other resource do that task. And then third is simplify. Can we make the task easier? So those are our 3 steps. And an important note here, don't get caught up on the cost implications of doing these actions. So the cost is negligible compared to the impact we can get of increasing the throughput through the constraint of the system. Next, we want to understand, is the constraint dealing with either synchronization or variability issues? So from previous sessions, we talked about the 3 types of issues: variability issues, synchronization issues, capacity issues. So we know that they are the capacity constraint of the system. So we want to look at, are things in sync? Are they getting things that they need in the sequence that they need them? Do they have everything that they need to do their job? And or are they dealing with variability issues where the things that they're getting aren't sufficient? So synchronization issues are defined as one of the inputs that are required for the resource to complete the work is missing or incorrect. So I have multiple inputs to do my activity. I'm missing one of those inputs and it stops me from doing the work. A variability issue would be defined as a problem that occurs that prevents the resource from doing the job effectively. So we're not very efficient because we're dealing with problems. So problems could be, I have a quality issue, I have minor stoppages in the process, I have different operators that do the process different across shifts or between operators. We want to focus on those things and reduce the variability. So if we're having synchronization issues, there's ways to solve that. One is to establish full kit prior to releasing work to the constraint. So making sure that everything is necessary and sufficient before we release that work to the constraint. So establishing full kit is a technique to solve the synchronization issue, and also reducing batch size prior to the constraint so that work arrives at the constraint faster. So these 2 techniques will reduce synchronization issues. Next, variability issues can be reduced by applying Six Sigma techniques. So depending on the type of problem we're dealing with, so we've got to properly classify the problem. Is it a problem that we can solve using Six Sigma techniques, or is it a problem we can solve using lean principles to solve the problem? So that's how we exploit the constraint, decide how to exploit the constraint. And it doesn't matter where the constraint is, whether it's in sales, whether it's in internal, whether it's a supplier, these techniques apply. So that's our session for today. Thank you for joining. Here's our website information, our YouTube channel. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And I hope you enjoyed the session, and we'll see you next week to talk about how to subordinate everything to the constraint.